Welcome back. Thank you very much for being on time. It's a great pleasure to welcome Dhiraj. I think you're going to get a lot of value from this session. I want to introduce him. We were just discussing that it's always better to introduce yourself. That's what I always do. Yeah. Over to you, Dhiraj.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here, and we've got the next hour together. Please feel free to make it as interactive as you like as we go through. It's not about me standing up and talking. As Chris said, let me just quickly tell you about myself. So I am an independent consultant. I'm an investor. I do some mentorship with startups and some advisory work with a corporate finance company called Invelio and an accelerator called TrueStar. My background, and I think the reason why Chris invited me, is a little bit mixed. I used to be in the startup world. I went to Stanford Business School from 95 to 97, so just when the internet was starting up. And I used to sit back there in the sky deck, so like Hadid back there is where my favorite spot was. I worked for a company called Vine, which was an internet consulting firm helping big companies build digital businesses in the first wave of the internet. This is sort of 97 to 2000. I joined them when they were 100 employees. When I left 3 years later, there were thousands. So it was real sort of hyper growth and the processes for creating that kind of growth. And I was bitten by the startup bug at the end of that period. And I started a company called Shazam, which is a music identification service. It's a really old company. Some of you are smiling. You may have seen it or used it in the past. And that's actually a picture of my business partners. It's a pretty motley crew, I do apologize, but my business partners from Shazam did. I've also kind of seen things from a corporate perspective. So I worked in the innovation program at Reuters, which is a fabulous program interacting with startups such as LinkedIn. I worked at a media company called Bauer, which has lots of titles, magazines, radio, TV in the UK and beyond. I worked for an Indian IT company called Infosys, which is 150,000 people and excellent at large-scale corporate processes. And most recently, I worked for Richard Branson. I mean, not directly for him, but I worked for Virgin Money, which is part of the Virgin Group. As Chris mentioned, I was head of innovation for Virgin Money. And in that role, we were looking at the future of digital banking, working with young people, so students from the age of 17, 18 to about 22. And I did a number of deals with accelerators as well as startups and charities in this kind of domain. So the stories I'll share today are from my personal experience. Nikki kindly sent me the profile of all of you here. You have way more experience than I do put together. So please feel free to jump in, contribute your own learnings as well as experiences. So with that kind of introduction, I'm going to dive in. Any questions before I get started? Okay. Yes?
What did you do in Shazam?
So I was one of the 4 co-founders. I ran the product. I did the first several rounds of fundraising. And I left, 13 or 14 years ago now. I'm still a shareholder. My co-founders and I share seats on the board. So I'm involved, but not actively involved, basically. Okay, so let's start with some facts and figures. So this is from a survey which was done in 2016 with big companies looking at how important is it for your organization to interact with external startups. And it's good news. So it's either very important or important for a large number of corporates. And in fact, 82% of corporates say it's at least somewhat important to work with startups. Now, the context for this is about collaboration and partnerships. We're not talking about exits and acquisitions, just to set the stage, although a healthy collaboration can lead to that. Second is, why did your firm seek to interact with startups? And number one was exploring new technologies and or business models, and then gaining insight into nascent industry trends. So there is a bias here. We're talking about technology, we're talking about innovation broadly, but there seems to be a tech bias. Again, looking at it in the profiles of people in this room, I think this sort of makes sense. Any questions so far? Any comments? Does this sort of intuitively feel that there's a reason for startups and corporates to interact? Now, I think what's happening is that there's different models which are emerging, and I'm speaking in sort of broad terms. If you rewind, 100 years, you've got a Tayloristic model of chopping up tasks into fine pieces and understanding them. If you rewind 40, 50 years, you have looking at system thinking and how different parts of the organization fit together. Now we're moving to much more of an ecosystem thinking. The players out there, new entrants from other industries, etc. I think that's what's happening, moving towards a different model of collaboration, which, by the way, is not easy. It's much easier staying on the same S-curve than trying to jump to a new S-curve. Now, if you look at it from the startup side or the scale-up side, what are the reported benefits of collaboration with corporates? So you've got visibility or enhanced publicity, so more access to new markets, and market knowledge up there. This is from a report by Nesta. Are people familiar with Nesta, the innovation charity? Yes. They've got a couple of really good reports which I recommend if you're interested in this topic, and this one's called Scaling Together. So far, so good. Nothing controversial. Anyone wondering why they're wasting their time listening to all this stuff? I'm going to try to make it a little bit more interesting. Now, we know that, or we saw, the survey says, 82% of companies think it's at least somewhat important. Now, if you ask them, how much money are you spending on this? So more than half spend less than $100,000 on it, which is not a lot. And then 25% don't even know if they have any budget, or if there's an innovation budget at all. So you've got a situation where we're moving from systems thinking to ecosystem thinking. We've got a situation where 80% of corporate things is somewhat important, but they're not spending money behind it. So this is not the full story. This is starting to take a peek at what the story might be. Let me ask a lot, just to see at what point you feel that your experiences can add to this. But here's a typical sort of corporate context. So you have businesses which are trying to protect the core. That is the fundamental, the primary mission. Defending the incumbent business, because otherwise, if you create an incumbent business, then you're in trouble. Often you see this managing the shift from an analog world to a digital world, with the exception of companies born digital, of course. Looking for new opportunities for growth, so that kind of embeds into the ecosystem thinking. And then shifting from a closed innovation system, which is an R&D team or in-house, to much more of an open innovation model, which is happening across industries. So not just in financial services, I've worked in pharma as well, it's the same thing. And then hiring and retaining the right talent. Anything which I'm missing? Does this sort of resonate? Does this make sense in your experience? Okay. How about the startup experience? Who here is an entrepreneur? Okay, tell me if I've got this right. So this is what a startup concept looks like. So it's a world of disruption opportunities. You have, most of the time, digital native DNA. So you're not trying to make the shift across the digital. A phrase which some of the companies I work with a lot, you start drowning in ideas. You've got more ideas than you have time to execute. It's not about looking for the next idea. And it's all about building the ecosystem. If you've got 3 people, a dog, a ping pong table, and a garage, so you're constantly trying to kind of expand your footprint. It's all about getting traction, about getting distribution, getting revenues. And then when you have that partnership, you get that brand halo, which you saw from the data, that credibility which comes from the branded partnerships, which then leads to the value creation. And at the end of the day, what all entrepreneurs want is to exit, get that yield, move the carrier. Now, sorry, I'm probably being flippant. This is being recorded, by the way, so I need to be for the entrepreneurs in the room and the future entrepreneurs in the room, does this ring true? Anything which I'm missing, or does this make sense? Okay. Now, if you look at those two things, there's a mismatch. So I think that is the starting point. I'd like doing. So, what do you guys think are some of the challenges to effective corporate and startup collaboration? Any volunteers? I will not hesitate to vote for, by the way. Yes.
Different mindsets.
Different mindsets. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah. Yes.
Payment terms?
Payment terms. I like it. Yeah.
Different speeds of process?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the corporates are starting out thinking startups are a threat,
Ah.
so they're not sure they want to collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yes.
Scale and significance. You know, if you're in corporate talking to a startup, it's often it's not BT enough to
Yeah.
get that.
Killing innovation.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yes.
I want to know what advantage they can have.
Who wants to know what advantage they can
The
have?
corporate.
The corporate. Yeah. Mhm. Yes. I see a hand. Inside the room. No? Okay. Fantastic. So thank you for that. Does anyone here think this is easy? We're going to have to spend 40 minutes listening to this guy droning on. Well, actually, this is not a tough problem. Does this feel like a challenge from your perspective? No. Hey, Grant, tell us more.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant listening to you.
Oh. Let's go back to the data. So this is what's reported by the startups. So they say number one is speed. So slow decision making. Somebody said speed over here. I heard that from Gus here. Okay. Second was coordination. So are you changing contact points? People keep leaving. You know, I'm still getting emails saying, "Hey, I was trying to reach the head of innovation at Virgin Money. You know what happened?" You know, so this is. Has anyone experienced this firsthand? That people sort of come and go. Yeah. The third is the culture. Now, what does that mean? Like, I'm not quite sure how they define culture in this particular case. Then contracts and regulation, the IP issues of payment terms, which is slightly different, but in there. Initiation, i.e. search problems, like who do I need to speak to? How do I get inside this organization? Alignment of goals, which is, you know, what are we trying to actually achieve? Lack of access to resources, which I think just means what we talked about before, which is budgets. And then trust, for instance, the abuse of power imbalance, which is way down at the bottom. Let me ask you guys, anything here which is surprising to anyone? Or anything which you think is missing? Yes? Paul?
That trust is sort of
Yeah.
what we do.
Okay.
It seems counterintuitive because, of course, a corporate will want to protect its core business.
Yeah.
That is the main thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
And a startup corporation will fall off the side of the table very quickly.
Yeah. Gabriel, what do you think?
Close together.
Okay. So you're surprised that it's down there. Okay. Anything which is surprising or missing? Anybody have a yes? Gabriel.
So could we turn these obstacles into strengths of the relationship by turning it the other way around and complement? I don't know, for the speed,
Yeah.
maybe slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
I think Victor is ahead of the game here. So I'm going to call him. When we get to the solutions, then that would be really helpful. I haven't thought through. I presented this slide yesterday to a couple of people at a PR firm, and they said, "Really? I mean, we're really surprised." I said, "Why?" They said, "But alignment with goals. Surely that should be number one. It seems illogical that that it's down there." And actually, it was interesting because I hadn't really reflected on it. I just made the slide, but actually, it's not that the goals are misaligned. It's corporates are working with intent, startups are working with intent. It's just that they operate at a different clock speed. Okay, so what is going on over here? So this is a quote from the same survey, which I'll let you guys read. It's a heartfelt moment. Okay, so my view, I think what is missing is empathy. So understanding the context of the other side, the other type of company, the other kind of environment. And empathy empathy is a tricky one. So it's not just sort of understanding, but it's being able to really relate to that situation. Has anyone kind of, how do you deal with building empathy? What do you do?
Try and paint a picture of the situation you're in, probably, to try and illustrate that to them,
Yeah.
and maybe ask them the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That would. Yeah. And yes. Yes.
You ask questions
Yeah.
to gain answers.
Yeah. So I think for me, empathy is about, first start with listening. So listening and learning. Because the reality is we can't have the full set of experiences in our professional lives. We'll be in unfamiliar contexts, we'll be dealing with people we haven't worked with necessarily before. And this is even more so in a startup context because everything is here. But listening and learning, I think, is really the key to starting to build that empathy. So that long quote and that moan about corporates, they're slow, they don't innovate, must be the culture, it's the wrong kind of people. The wrong kind of people is when it starts drilling down to that next level. So what does it feel like when you're an entrepreneur? What it feels like, it's like freedom. There's a great book called High Stakes, No Prisoners. And the author, the opening line of this book, he said, it's like driving a convertible on a mountain road. You know, the wind is blowing in your face. And you've got this sense of freedom. That's what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. That's what people want. But with that comes the downside. There's no guarantees. You know, there's no certainty. You don't have that safety net that you would if you're in a corporate context. You are comfortable with uncertainty. You're open to change. You enjoy that feeling. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, does this match your experience? Is there things which are missing or which don't sound right to you? Okay. Now, how about a corporate context? Who here has worked for a large corporate? Okay. Now, this is my observation from some of the realities of corporate life. You're driven by that annual budget, right? So, around the August time frame, you start saying, right, what's next year going to look like? Now, I have actually no idea what the day after tomorrow is going to look like, but corporates would say, let's start looking at next year. My boss would say, okay, now let's set some objectives. I'm happy to set some objectives. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, particularly when you're working in innovation, but let's give it a go. And there's a desire for predictability. Why? Because the analyst will ask you, how much revenue are you planning to make next year? I don't know, I was thinking about 300 million. Good. But you know, if you don't give, you say, we have to figure it out. That's not a good answer typically for the analyst work. My dad worked for Air India for his entire career. He spent about 30 years there. I've worked in different roles, as you heard. But a big part is fitting in. So having those internal networks and being able to move steadily up the ranks, get the respect of your peers, that might not be absolutely true today, but I think it still largely is. Not to forget years of service and your pension. How many of the entrepreneurs here have been thinking about their pension? Pension? Anyone? Pension? It's really important. Yes, we have it here. Okay, let me not go into a tangent about pensions, but not the kind of thing which is top of mind for entrepreneurs. Now, unfortunately, for corporates, this gets to be sort of hard work. And the hard work is, there's one scenario of the world where corporates wouldn't have to deal with startups. But that scenario seems to be changing. In lots and lots of different sectors that I've either spoken with or been to conferences, you have to engage with startups. And how do you do it? So one good way which I've seen is people stop wearing a suit and they put on jeans and a black turtleneck. Now that's a good start, you could argue, but that's not good enough. There's a lot more to go. I'll give you guys an example. I was starting to do work with young people when I was in Virgin Money, and my first instinct was, I must go down to the student union and have some beers with students to try to understand their financial lives. And the reaction was, are you sure? I said, oh yeah, I'm absolutely sure. Definitely, absolutely sure. But the initial reaction was, I'm not quite sure if that's a good place to start. I, as an entrepreneur, always say, the first thing you should do is speak to your customers, speak to your prospective customers, get inside their head, understand their pain points. And the reality is, for a lot of corporates, they're still in this kind of exploration phase. I didn't mention when I introduced myself, but I used to work for an innovation consultancy called What If. And What If worked with big companies, helping them come up with ideas. And one of the things that we used to do was organize tours called Top Dog. And Top Dog was about taking a senior management team out and visiting other companies to get some inspiration, some new ways of looking at things. One of my colleagues very unkindly called it Silicon Safari. So you're like, ooh, there's a start. I spotted a startup. You know, oh, I spotted another startup. You know, that one has a beard. You know, that's amazing. And you're not going to learn that. You know, that's not good enough. Being that fan going, ooh, I see the female variety of startup as well. You know, very interesting. You're not going to get anywhere with this. You know. And sadly, this happens even today. I think what we need to get to is kind of like move beyond that, and you guys have already done a really good job of flagging some of these things up. This is my own take on things. I love this image. So I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. If I can pull this stuff together, the first thing is that there's superficial difference. So I didn't own any suits before I worked for a bank. So I didn't buy suits. Now I own suits, which I'm pretty proud of, and that's, you know, for one thing. I'm 47. Demographically, I fit right in. 47, if you're in a startup, then you are way above the average sort of demographic. If you show up like this, it's embarrassing for me sometimes when I walk into Google campus in London. You know, I'm conscious that I'm raising the average age just by walking in. But I mean, you know, I still am who I am. The second is the different experiences and knowledge of each other's domains. So having been in a startup and knowing what it's like, you think it's instinctive, which is, you want an answer, you call across the room. You don't call across the room when you're working in a corporate environment, typically. You've got a different context, which is what are your goals and how do you go about achieving them. So in a big corporate context, it's all about like, who do you know? Oh, you know the lady in finance, that's fantastic. Well, that's going to accelerate that payment. Oh, your drinking buddy with the chap in procurement. Well, that's really handy because maybe they can make an exception to that, you know, and so on and so forth. It doesn't work that way in a startup environment. Of course, you're going out and connecting with people and reaching out to people, but the internal networks is not the key thing. And I think, crucially, what it comes down to is you make some choices. It's often you get a different kind of person. It's not, you know, the startup journey, the entrepreneurial journey is not for everyone. I mean, thank goodness, but it's not for everyone. So if you scratch the surface about some of the challenges, you get to something which is much deeper, I think, at a human level. Okay, so what do we do about this? Let's take 5 minutes to see if we can come up with some ideas. Let me ask you, I'm going to ask you guys to come down, grab a flip chart. Why don't this side of the room, grab this one over here, that side of the room, grab a flip chart over here. Just get some bullet points, get some thoughts on there. Vito, would you be kind enough to coordinate this side of the room, since you were turning barriers into benefits already? Can I get a volunteer at this side for Mark?
He knows you.
Mark, yeah, fantastic. Okay, let's go. 5 minutes. Come on down. All right, great. Guys, thank you for humoring me and for putting your things together. So let's have a quick playback. Tell us what you guys came up with.
Yeah, so, excuse me, corporate champion, so find out like the person in the company that's going to really beat the drum for you, whether that be the innovation team probably, or whoever, someone you've got an existing relationship with. Be open-minded and possibly have more, almost have a sort of open door. Have you been copying arts? Open door, you could have like open days, maybe, I don't know, that was my pretty shit idea, but then alignment of basic values, to understand their values and where we could sort of be of similar standing. How we communicate, which was a point which was all around how we present ourselves and how we communicate both. Do you have anything to add there, Louise? Who's the point? It's kind
I
of
think it's
around.
about finding matching language so
Yeah.
that you don't use all the cool tech speak, you find something that they can understand so they don't feel stupefied on their
Then you've got to understand the corporate structure, so actually understand who the people are and getting to them, because otherwise they just waste your time. Then understanding the pains, so understand what their pains, the problems they're dealing with, so that you can have a better, you can gain empathy. Jargon and speech, they probably often don't know what an MVP is, all these different things, you know, from as basic as that. Reluctantly wear a suit, maybe, if you really are meeting some real corporates. And then, exactly, yeah. Well, like Unilever is a bit more relaxed than a sort of, I don't know, a bank, investment bank. Articulate financials, so, you know, understand your numbers and show that you've got a sound understanding, because they're all driven and on that ROI basis, and that's what they want to know, so they want to know that you understand the same thing. And then integrate the systems so that your systems are able to sort of talk to their systems and that you can match in a similar way there. Then, this is a really good one, which is have advisors to you or people on your board that have corporate experience, so that you can get a better perspective on looking at things. And then plan further ahead. So know that, you know, these things are going to take time. Personal example, we've been negotiating with Shell for the last 8 months, and we told the board we're going to close this last September, and we're still like nearly close, and they keep changing the contract, changing the payment plans and everything. And so that's just not done on our financials.
What do you guys mean by integrate systems? Processes or IT? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So like Salesforce, SAP, and all of these.
I'd be a bit wary of that. Corporate systems are very cumbersome,
Yeah.
and they'll have sort of heavyweight corporate requirements that could cripple a startup. So you don't really want their processes or their IT.
But then,
Let's understand them better though.
if I counter that and say, like, we have some clients who are corporates and they plug into a Slack channel in us, so we actually get them on board and the way we can,
Okay.
so that we can.
Try and get them onto
Well,
yours,
both. It's
that's
like
it.
both. You know, a sort of it's a two-way thing.
Yeah,
I
I
guess.
guess a word of caution. I think just, yeah.
We'll put a little. Where are we? We'll put a little attention sign. Where is it? There we go. Warning. Right, there we go.
Very nice. Excellent. Thank you. That was fantastic. Can I move on to that quick shot?
Right.
Take us away.
Some of them, I don't know how, but they've touched base on some of these things already. But
Do you mind just spinning it around?
it's about having that open-minded approach and empathy. You know, understanding right from the start that there's different ways of working, and if you understand that from a very early stage, that helps on the relationship. It's about the collaborative or cooperative approach. Synergetic approach, which is taking the best out of each company and combine them instead of working in a competitive basis. We also have one which is very interesting, which is setting the goals clear right from the start. So who delivers what, so that we can have a full exchange and we know who's going to exchange what between the two companies. Secondly, someone called it diligence. We've changed the vocabulary and said, you know, it's prior knowledge and do research before the approach. So instead of wasting each other's time, you know, research first about the values and the mission of that corporation to see if it is a good fit with your own values as well. Otherwise, you can be wasting each other's time later on. Manning up on some areas. I think Louise was talking about the language, and maybe sometimes it's about the language. You know, manning up a little bit. You cannot just use tech jargon or startup jargon. You need to understand that they are corporate companies, so you need to close that gap of how you communicate between the two companies. Well, one area here is, for instance, project management. I mean, if you're delivering a project between the two companies, corporate has really great systems to do that stuff and processes. Maybe the startups should feel inclined to match that skill set. And then finally, one advice could be to add in a corporate person as advisor to that startup, and that will make sure that there is a reality check and making sure that there is that knowledge already embedded into the startup. And this was it.
Any questions? Any comments? What we just presented? Yeah? Okay. Super. Well, that worked out really well. I'm going to hold on to those post-its. So that was those flip charts. I think that was really, really useful. Thanks for that. Yeah, great job, guys. So my take on this is that there's a gap between the two sides, and a friend of mine who runs an open innovation consultancy calls it the suits and the sneakers. And bringing those two things together is not easy. I should have worn sneakers today to say, yes, well, you can't pull that off. But I think what it takes is a structured approach. It sounds terribly boring and dreadfully dull, but I think I mean that. So being corporate friendly, it's not about the veneer. It's not, yes, indeed, wearing a suit can be a good idea. And I've been in contact with people who change clothes depending on who they're meeting in the morning or the afternoon. But it's going a level below that and creating a set of structures. And I should point out, this is on both sides. So this is not just the way I'm presenting today, it's to an audience of entrepreneurs, but very much so on the corporate side as well. So some of the, I guess, lessons learned in my experience and tools which one could apply. So corporate thing is this both like this hierarchical pyramid as well as this, these spans which can go on to the horizon. So just understanding that many corporates don't really understand startups and vice versa. So having that as a starting point. Second is understanding the hierarchy. So how does it really work? And it's incredible, but in a lot of corporates, decisions keep getting kicked upstairs. So if in doubt, kick it upstairs. So if you don't know who your contact is reporting to and what they want, then you don't have the full picture. The third is, and all of these points you guys have already come up with, is stepping into other people's shoes and being able to role play. And that's, I think, a critical part of a formal education and being in a classroom environment. What would you do if your contact quit suddenly? If you left from 1 week to the next, they were gone. What would you do? Because if you haven't thought it through and that happens, you're stuck. You go, I've been working on that deal with Shell for 8 months and my contact just quit. So now what? So what would you do? And thinking through that ahead of time. The fourth is about having processes which scale. There was a discussion about systems, for instance. So a child is not a small adult. A startup, however, should try to think like a big company, but at a smaller scale. So if you have a system which is Slack, for instance, with communication, that's a great starting point because it's, you have the information there, you can access it, it's scalable. If your system of communication is to shout across the room, that's not going to scale. So when you start bumping up against a corporate environment, you're going to need to change your methods, and that change can always be awkward. So start thinking about how you're going to scale this. I've got lots of experiences, to give you an example. So when I was at Shazam, we hired my cousin. Why did we hire my cousin? Because she was smart. So I hired my own boss at Shazam, and he said, do you have a job description for your cousin? I said, no, I don't. She just shows up and I tell her what to do. It's like, we need a job description. So I'm like, oh, what a pain. Why do we hire these corporate people? But he was right. You need to know how does the organization work, who does what, who reports to whom, what are the objectives. That starts creating scale over time. And the last is that rules can and do get broken. I don't want to give this impression that it's two worlds and they never come together. It's not the case. But don't expect the rules to be broken every time. So there are times where you go push, 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 you bump up against a rule and you go, that's the rule. There are times when you can break it, but making those judgments comes from understanding the context of those rules. So, in a nutshell, I think for me, it's creating those win-win situations. And those win-win situations, again, you guys have come up with a better list. It's about understanding the corporate motivations. What is your strategy? When you say innovation, what do you mean? What do success metrics look like? What are you after? Tell me again, so what are your bonus criteria this year? Like, what is, how do you personally benefit from this? So all of those facts and interpretations. And then the second part is understanding the corporate processes. When you say I'm going to have to talk to security, what do you mean talk to security? Oh, they want to do penetration testing on a software. What agency do you use for penetration testing? Oh, I see. So what are the criteria? So getting into that without being absolutely slammed when somebody says, have you passed penetration testing? You go, I don't know what they're talking about. But you say, oh, well, we can't use our software if there's any potential vulnerability. And you go, oh my God, this is going to take another 8 months to get through this. And when I worked with a large corporate, for instance, when I went to Infosys, they were absolutely fantastic at navigating corporate processes because they were large corporate. So they knew exactly what the other corporate wanted. And once you get through those barriers, then life is good because it creates a barrier to entry. So if you're a certified vendor, then a large company says, fantastic, well, let's just go with a certified vendor. Let's not bother. I'm sure if you make your startup has got better technology, but we're not going to bother because it's too complicated. And then the last one is, if you're a startup, is help the corporates help themselves. So what I call give, give, get. So help them walk through their own processes. Because there's a very good chance they've never done it before. So there's a very good chance that they have never done a deal of the type that you're trying to do with them in this particular context or this particular individual. So help them out. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually really quite powerful. Has anyone been in this situation where you're dealing with a large corporate and you go, they don't know what they're doing? Does this ring a bell? A friend of mine, he wrote the original app for Shazam, and he started his own business, which was later acquired. And when he was acquired, it was happy days. The individual who was behind the acquisition, turns out it's the first deal he had ever done. He had never done one of those before. So it was a partnership between the two, which led to that outcome. But coming into it, my friend didn't know. He thought they did this sort of day in, day out. Not true, first time. So some of the tools one can use. Anyone here a professional salesperson? Anyone have a sales background? Yeah, 1, 2. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more. How do you go about, what kind of context were you selling that?
Selling professional services to corporates.
Okay. Can you, okay, Peter, what about yourself?
Yeah, in the aerospace industry,
Yeah.
for big corporations as well.
Okay. There was another hand back there, yeah.
I'm a sales specialist for lawyers.
Okay, fine. So, can I get one of you guys, give me the 1 minute, your take on running complex sales.
It's all
Yeah.
about the customers.
Okay. Anything to add, Graham?
I think you've given one of the best explanations of it I've ever seen, actually, which is you have to get inside the company's head and you have to act as if you're one of their employees. Because if you sit back and wait for them to understand that they're going to buy from you, you'll be waiting for a long time.
Interesting. Okay, that's really helpful. Peter, anything to add?
Yeah, time, perseverance, and realizing that you don't do it alone, you do it as a team. Because the customer is also complex on the other end.
Yeah, exactly. So from the outside, you look in, and you think, oh, I found the right person. They seem keen. That's going to get the job done. It is absolutely wrong. So you've got to literally handhold them every step of the way as they navigate inside their own organization to get to the outcome that you're after, and which, by the way, you might help them to come to. You say, what do you get? Let me help you. I think what you're looking for is accelerated growth through partnerships, which is exactly what you're trying to do. So you can lead the witness. Second, leveraging your advisors and mentors. So people who understand what does it feel like to sell into the aerospace industry specifically is really helpful if that's your business, or professional services, or lawyers. What makes them tick? I've never sold into law firms, but I'm sure how they buy is different, or how they interact is different. So having those people who've been there, done that, interact with those people makes a big difference. The third is to create your own network. So let's say your golden contact left. What do you do? Well, you should have multiple contacts built up, whether it's professionally, whether it's socially, whether it's what happens if you're away on holiday, who do I need to speak to? Build up that network so you don't have a single point of failure. The fourth is just creating and maintaining a stakeholder map. This is awful, but this is just a structured tool. I hired my old CTO at Shazam to do a piece of work when I was at Virgin Money. He said, can you tell me the cast of characters, i.e. the stakeholder map? So I took out a piece of paper and I drew on it for about 15 minutes. And I had 32 people on this cast of characters. And this was the first meeting. We hadn't even got started. But if you don't do that, then you're not going to make it, because any one of those can say, I blocked that because I didn't really understand. I don't think we're going to follow up because they didn't follow the risk procedures, and so on and so forth. Everybody can become an obstacle unless you have that understanding of the map. Once you've got the map and you're mapping the process, manage it through, which is you're really keen to do a deal, I'm really keen to do a deal, until we talk to procurement. Okay, now, so how does procurement work again? So if you don't understand that, you will never get to procurement. Yeah. And it's a good chance. When I was head of innovation, I used to love meeting operations. I used to thoroughly enjoy chatting with risk. I couldn't get enough of compliance. Why? Because it was my education as well. Because if I wanted to get deals done, then I had to go through this. But I didn't know what it takes to actually get a piece of software past testing in a bank. I didn't know. It would be up to me to find out. So if you're a startup on the outside, it's your job to find out and help your contact as well. And then anticipate and overcome blockers, which is part of the same thing. So the further you can look out in terms of the process and the individuals, the more you can anticipate. We used to do this quite often at Shazam. We say, right, okay, so here's the deal we'd like to do. I'll give you a specific example. So we tried, when we launched back in 2000, we had the same 4-digit short code across all the mobile operators in the UK. So if you want to identify a song, you hit 2580. The 4 digits straight down the middle of your mobile, hold the phone up for 15 seconds, it would make a voice call, hang up, you get a text message with the name of the song and the artist, and you get it would charge you for that service. Now, the operators in the UK, there was only one company which had a 4-digit short code across all the operators. So my business partner, Chris, got to be practically best mates with the CEO of REC Traffic Master, picking his brains about how did you get that deal done? What did it take to get that same number across all the operators? So he could educate his contacts within the operators. They've never done this before, for the most part. And then the last, no, that's it. I think we've pretty much covered off. Any questions on this? Is this making sense? Any questions? Anything I've missed? Okay. And then there's certain things which I find things not to do. So, I think we've covered off. This is a quote from VP of Procurement at Virgin Atlantic, which is basically summarizes some of the things we've been talking about. Some pitfalls for startups to avoid. Now, the whole point is to change the world. If you don't believe you're going to change the world, you really shouldn't be doing startup. If you think you're going to change the world overnight, on the other hand, you might need to sleep on it. Because it doesn't really work that way. In the long run, yes. So don't set yourself up for that. And don't tell the board, by the way, be done by next week until it's actually done. The second, and this I see this happening, is people sell the system, and then our artificial intelligence machine will revolutionize recruiting, so you have the most diverse candidates ever using scanners which attach to the head and monitor brain function. I didn't make this up, this is a true thing. Yeah, okay, this is true. So you go, that's great, but it's going to baffle your audience. So don't sell just the system, make sure you sell the stake as well. Functionally, what do you do? Can I see the product? Do you have a demo? Do you have any reference customers? That's really helpful. Do you have a reference customer in my industry? That's even more helpful. That's the basic. The third is blocking off strategic options. And this is really quite sad. And I saw this when I was in a big company. People go, oh, we're meeting the head of innovation in Virgin Money. Hallelujah. First of all, there's a long, long way to go. But if you get that deal with that big bank or that big partner, then others will say, well, we're not going to deal with you. Oh no, I mean, you might have worked for 8 months to get a deal in place, and you might have given them a sweetheart deal because you really want that, and then no one else will talk to you. So don't find yourself in that situation. So make sure you either hedge your bets or have multiple options. Don't get yourself into a strategic kind of corner. The fourth one is living in eternal hope. And okay, I've seen this from personal experience. Most of the time, people want complete. They won't say, look, I think your idea is rubbish. You've wasted 45 minutes of my time. I wish you'd go away and never come back. They will say, it's very interesting. We'd love to see a little bit more progress and some traction and maybe some letters of intent. And you go, oh, that was a great meeting. It was not a great meeting. They hated your product. They didn't like it. They wanted you to go away. But they're not going to tell you. So don't live in eternal hope. There's sometimes you say, you know what, I'm never going to land that deal. I'm going to walk away and we'll just keep it. Yes?
What would they say to you think that would mean that they were?
A dried ink on paper, cash in your bank account.
Verbally.
Oh, verbally.
Yeah.
I'm going to set up a meeting with my boss next week. That would be good. Yeah. And then the last one is what I call bite the hand that feeds. So that's the other way around. So you say, let's say you go to a conference, you hear some people, you go up to speak afterwards, you say, we should talk. You get their business card, you set up a relationship, it's all going well. 8 months go by, nothing's happened. You haven't met their boss, you haven't signed a deal, there's no cap, and you go, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this. Because I thought we were getting somewhere, we're not. Don't bite the hand that feeds. Okay. So that person is probably moving mountains behind the scenes which you don't know until you look at the world through their eyes. What is the blocker? What's stopping them making things happen? Don't burn your bridges or bite the hand that feeds. Even though you might be tempted to. Okay. So this topic is something which I think is becoming more and more front of mind. Yesterday I spoke at the Startup Bootcamp, which is an accelerator in London for insurance companies. And they've got it set up with a cohort of about 10 startups, broadly speaking, in the insurance business, and a number of insurance company partners. And there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm as the two sides try to figure out how to work together. I definitely recommend Nesta as a resource, and a couple of the white papers that they have published. But stay tuned, because I think we're going to find that there's more and more of these collaborations done more elegantly as people get this experience. And that image of the suits and sneakers coming together, I'm optimistic that we're on the right track. So thank you very much for putting up with me. And I have time if you guys have for any questions. Otherwise, if you'd like to dash for lunch, I'll understand.